live.
Are we live?
It's a Human Condition. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Jesse Ican Sparkman.
What's going on, everybody?
Yeah, this is how we roll. It's what time is it? 1:21 in the AM, and we just had some shit to talk about. Really, I was in here messing with this lighting in the studio space, and
hey, if you want to see what a true artist is, bro, he's a true artist. I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, I think I'm in true artist company, and that's kind of what. So what we're talking about everything. We're just really chopping it up, and we're testing the space is what we're doing. And it's kind of fun when haters get on and start criticizing.
Oh man!
When it's not constructive, when it's just like it's obvious that it's coming from like a pit inside their belly that they haven't dug out yet and figured out what the pain is. So I like to antagonize that when I can. You know what I mean? When somebody says something about the podcast or whatever, I like to antagonize it. And this dude was making I don't even know the guy really. I met him one time when I was in treatment for PTSD benders. And I don't know what the fuck he was in there for. I wouldn't say anyway. I respect people's privacy. But
for sure.
But yeah, he said some shit like not a single person, nobody, not one person. I'm like, who's he talking to right now? Like he's like arguing with somebody in his head, and he's projecting it out. And because I'm where I am in terms of understanding, empathizing, even because I was, I don't know if I was never really a hater,
Right.
If I'm hating on somebody, you deserve it. And it's very contrived. And, there's a method to my madness. Like I'm directing my hits or I'm throwing misdirection, one or the other, but this guy's just spouting off. So something in what I wrote triggered him. And then he found an accomplice, a partner in crime, who's really a sweet woman, but a devout Catholic. And I knew what I wrote it wouldn't offend people that are spiritual and they leverage God, the Bible, and for its stories, for its teachings, and they can use that to better themselves, and they don't have to get into the indoctrination. We're all indoctrinated to a certain extent. I feel like I've broken the indoctrination. I've made a choice to give everything away, give it all up for a cause that I may not live to see and to fruition. But in that, there's still not innate because it's world made, but there's still some things I know I'm going to stumble onto. But for the most part, what I see so clearly is my life played out. So when somebody, it's both painful and fucking hilarious when somebody does that, because I see things so clearly now. Not only do I see myself in my own situation, but because of what it took to get on the other side of PTSD. Yeah. I understand how the brain functions, period. Like the trauma mechanisms are the same, period. The triggers are different. So I don't know what triggered him. I know what triggered the woman. And, she's still a sweet. I don't care what she said. I understand what it's like to be stuck in that space, and I'm not going to bash him, but I am going to call it what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's how you overcome challenges. My challenge my entire life was PTSD. I didn't know I had it. Wasn't being diagnosed. It wasn't a cool thing. You know what I mean? Now everyone talks about it, but and they still don't understand it for shit. It's kind of like cerebral palsy, and I think that's where we relate, is that cerebral palsy has been somewhat abandoned by Western medicine. They very simply state, with not a whole lot of explanation, there's no cure. But what I know about it is it originates in the brain, and there's no physical manifestation point of the pain body. Yeah. So what it tells me is there's neural pathways right next to where your brain has been damaged, to where it could be opened. And I too was strangled by my umbilical cord, and I don't think I was pronounced dead though, so I wasn't as far along as you.
Yes. So like for me, like I'm really starting to understand, like through this whole journey, bro, I'm starting to understand myself more. I'm starting to understand that like you talking about your situations and things that you go through is not only helping you, it's helping other people. You know what I'm saying? So like when you're here and we're having these long conversations, like it's helping me a lot understand that your story needs to be told. And like through everything I'm doing now, it's like it's crazy to me that we're in this space together and we're all learning like how to become our higher selves or better versions of ourselves, you know?
Well, and this is like so it's and we keep it humorous too. If you did the title of it, handicap these nuts. So I'm directing his video, Jesse Proof, and that's my name, handicap these nuts.
Yes, sir.
So we're keeping it light. We don't want to go too hard on Dave Chappelle.
No.
So
shout out to Dave Chappelle.
Shout out.
I'm telling you.
You don't even know like what we got coming,
Dude.
what we've dreamt up. We might have Dave Furman getting on. I don't know if he's going to get on tonight. We got at him late, but
I would be so grateful if I got to open up for him, man.
Well, I mean, we're not going to say too much, but yeah, handicap these nuts, and it's he's his production company, Ballsy with Palsy.
Oh my God, dude! I'm telling you, the music industry is about to take a whole new hit with that people that are coming in, bro. I'm telling you. Because so the guy who was running his mouth today. Mm-hmm.
I still don't know what it was that was plaguing him. I hope whatever it is, he figures it out. For me, it's just going to bounce off me if it's not relevant. So
yeah.
So people like to try to kick people when they're down or what they view as down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not down. Like I chose to go through the shit I'm going through. I didn't know how. I couldn't quantify how hard it would be. I didn't know how people would dissipate. I've heard the stories, but you don't know until you go through it. Mm-hmm. So I chose it. I can choose to turn it off at any given point. Yeah. So, somebody like that who's really not happy with themselves, and they're projecting, they're talking about things that aren't relevant. So he's talking about, needed a ride, and the one guy who was starting to chime in with him because he got mad because I called him on not reading it. Mm-hmm. He went up on the King James. He said, he was like, you need a ride. Yeah, I did. That's what happened when I became homeless because I was fighting for the greater good, you fucking dick. Mm-hmm. Do you remember offering me a place in your house or giving me, you know what I mean? So when people can use something, they will, and it's real petty. And what I told him was, luckily, I'm not compromised. Luckily, I'm not. He doesn't know if I'm teetering on a fucking PTSD bender. He doesn't know if I've decided to get through this with hard drugs or he doesn't know.
And that's what I try to tell people all the time is that look, you might have said something to make that other person think like, bro, like if you aren't as strong as you are, who knows where if I
was compromised, I might be fucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That could be the trigger. That if somebody was to take the bullshit he was saying to heart, if they didn't realize, that has nothing to do with me, like they couldn't decipher yet, and luckily I'm here. Like I thought it was pretty fucking. I was close. I thought it was close to self-actualization, and I was, but I'm eons from where I was before all of this happened. Had I not chosen that path. And then every step of the way chose to do the opposite of what my ego laid out intentionally, uncomfortably. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't know how deep the indoctrination goes. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not looking for conspiracies so I can fester in my room and on a computer and try to figure them out. No, you'll never figure them out. Right. You know what I mean? The best investigators in the world haven't figured them out. And if you did, here's the problem with me. If I did figure it out, now I got to do something about it. And there's just some things I'm just not capable of putting so we the people, that's something I think I can be at least a conduit to accomplishing. And that's where I choose it. But if I hadn't gone through all of this, I probably wouldn't have had the clarity to see what with your condition and be able to relate it to mine, which is different, seemingly worlds away, but it's really not. And not have neuroscientists or neurologists telling you something similar.
And I think that's what makes it easy. I think that's what makes it easier for me to talk to people is when me and you talk, we get into deep conversations, and those are the conversations that help you learn something. You know what I'm saying? Like when I talk to you, when I talk to my dad, when I talk to people, it's like I want to learn something from them. So when I when we have these conversations, the main thing I do is I listen, because God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so you can do twice as much listening as you do talking, sir.
Yeah, I like that. You said that last time too, and so what if you're deaf?
Yeah.
And then you got another sensibility that opens up, and
you can still see, you can, the way that everybody, like the way that, because I don't read and I don't write. So the way that I take in God, when people say, oh, you got to read the Bible, it's like, no, you don't. You can be connected to Him through your spirit too. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
there's all different ways you can be connected.
When I think this is a common thread, because all of our experiences are individualized to a certain extent.
Right.
There's a lot. We have a lot more in common than we do different.
Right.
But in the realm of phenomena, the things we experience are different, and we're all, in my opinion, these unique iterations of whatever the divine is.
Right.
God, whatever you want to call it. I have no qualms with what anybody calls it.
Right.
And I have no qualms if I don't agree with the religious doctrines that have had humanity in perpetual war since almost the beginning of written human history. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with them per se, as it pertains to the individual, as long as the individual is able to find a way to embrace their fellow humans. Really the golden rule. Yeah. The one that permeates through all religious and spiritual doctrines: do unto others, no matter what you call that, law of attraction. Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself.
And no matter what somebody's religious belief is, it doesn't mean that you can't learn from them. You know what I'm saying?
You always can.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I think.
If you ask why, why does people paint Allah, Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, as a and this is you never know the truth with America. The people who stole America, they're fuck ups, and what they're all lies. Everything they've done is lies. Everything they've done is kept us in perpetual conflict. So when they say anything about the Prophet Muhammad, I don't fucking believe it. So I got to go. So I haven't found anything that says what American propaganda would say about the Muslim faith, and that is to kill. You know what I mean? Now maybe it's in there. I don't know enough about it, but that doesn't mean I can't learn from it. So if you know when the prophet came to be, well, it's after Jesus, right? I might be wrong, but I thought it was after Jesus.
I wouldn't.
Regardless, subject to crusades. You know what I mean? So I'd be a little defiant too. You know what I mean? So and I don't know that is. This is just something I'm learning now, because that's the one I know the least about, is the Muslim faith, which is crazy because we're in Michigan and we have the highest Arab population outside of the Middle East, right here. But a lot of my friends are Chaldeans, so they're Catholic. Yeah. And then I do have a lot of Muslim friends too. It's just I've never sat and talked in depth about the faith, and I'd like to, because you do learn.
Yeah, and that's the number one thing.
If you allow yourself.
Like, that's the number one thing for me, is like, it doesn't matter about somebody's religion. You can still learn from whoever. And I don't really believe in that religion thing either. Like, the whole religion thing is just funny to me. Like, I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion too much, you know?
Is there a tornado coming through this bitch or something? You hear that?
I think it's just the heat or something.
That's some heavy shit. Yeah, well, here's the thing. You can't, it's all man-made. Like, people want to claim that, and that's, I was talking to a man who, he's one of those people. So I asked him the question. I said, okay, so what about in indigenous culture? They live off the land. They have no footprint, and they're not doing any damage. They honor the meats that they kill. So what about this tribe that never hears about your religion, your faith, your Jesus, your God? But they have a connection to what they consider the Most High, and they live a better life. What about them? What happens to them? Well, they're gonna, they can't go to heaven. the fuck? What? I'm like, you really believe that shit? And he does. I mean, I don't know that maybe that's cognitive dissonance because he just doesn't want to go through the whole process of having to find something again. He latched on, but that's mind blowing to me. That blows my fucking mind that somebody would think that any God or anything that exemplifies love would
like that.
Intentionally invent you or create you and then say, you know what? You never got to figure out who I was. Lake of fire, bitch, for eternity. Mm-hmm. Burn, motherfucker, burn. Like
and you know, like the thing that
that's
really,
how that God would talk to, by the way.
The thing that really like stuck with me that you said was that sin isn't even like, you know how people try to make it out to be like a big thing.
Yeah.
It just means miss the mark. It doesn't really mean like that. Now, is there shit that goes on in the world that I don't like? Yeah, but
well, the truth is, if you want to get into the very core of spirituality, the metaphysics, God, whatever, everything's a manifestation. So whatever's here is necessary for whatever given reason. Yeah, humanity, we don't choose. We don't wake up one morning and say, "Man, I'm comfortable as fuck. I love my life. I got to change some shit. Like I just got to do better because this isn't better enough." Like, no, we got to be shaken. Things have to happen to make us want to evaluate ourselves at a deep visceral level, and then change it, which is a motherfucker.
And you got to be willing. And you got to be willing to do it too, because, dude, like going through this whole process, like with the situation with the gyms or whatever, like going through this whole process, and I'm learning so much about myself, and I'm so happy that I'm able to get deeper with everything, like with my story and everything. Like, it's just a beautiful thing, man.
It is. I knew the first night, like, so me too. I've never had experience being up close and personal with people with physical challenges like this.
Yeah.
So I've never, and you know, Damien, but he was able-bodied, then he had an accident, so that was a different thing.
Shout out to Damien, by the way.
Shout out to Damien.
We got a song called Pain or Power. It's crazy. Go check it out.
You're going to be checking out everything real soon. But yeah, so anybody that I knew that had acquired, they had acquired it, and they had, you know, so it's a different perspective. But, you know, I got to check to see if Eric responded. I know it was a late night thing, but when we have him on, people talk about how they, like the little petty grievances that we have in our day to day. Even me, like what I'm going through right now is petty compared to what he had to go through, or petty what you might have had to go through your entire life. But what 800 days in a fucking bed, being told all the time that he's going to die, and having to, and the will to fight against that, and then get to a point where he's in a wheelchair. And he's not the person he used to be, but he's better.
Yeah.
And just pushes for inspiration, like to power through that the way he did. Like,
yeah, and his mindset is unbelievable, man. Like, he's such a smart dude.
So, and people, we would look at him and call him handicapped. You know what I mean? And from, you know, we have to recognize that there's a good lot of people that they live life like this, right?
Yeah.
So to the human being, that's normal. What they don't do enough, and what I did, I mean, look, you got to go through it to get to it. And you see, like all the shit, like when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So a lot of what I'm going through right now, it's like I thought I was ready to move on out of this situation and into the next phase. And then I got here that night and I talked to you. I'm like, well, you don't know as much as you think you did. So there's something special going on here.
Yeah.
You're going to have to stay.
And this is my thing too. Like, even with the whole job situation, like me working and stuff, or people like me working, people sometimes they look at us and they're like, they don't want to hire us because they don't think we could do the job. Well, if you sit down and you talk to me and you ask me, what can you do to benefit us or whatever, then you'll figure it out. But if you don't take time and you just write us off, that's a problem.
Now, what if the guy that likes to burn people doesn't let you in because Are you going to give him a cosmic nut slap?
Because he said up there, maybe he'll give me one back. You never know.
Yeah. I think he did. He gave me one too. Like, mine, PTSD, you can't see it.
And everybody that thinks that God don't have a sense of humor, believe me, he does.
Motherfucker cracks up on that. And he's got he, she, whatever. Like, that's the thing is I try not to call it he.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe souls, consciousness at that level. There's here. I think that's why we're here. I think we're here to transcend the human condition, but also because, and Bruce Lipton said this real beautifully. He's a molecular biologist turned a spiritualist. Mm-hmm. He said, well, God can't taste chocolate, whatever God is.
Right.
God can't love. God can't hate. God can't do it. God can't transcend anything. God is immalleable. So if God, to me, is probably just this infinite tapestry of consciousness, and we pop in and out of the realm of phenomena as these iterations of whatever God is. And when we're here, I think God praised us. I think it's a collaboration. God really wants us to get it right, because there's a lot of good in here that we seem to fucking overlook in our programming. And in our desire, this is our egoic drive. The ego, all it is the illusion that the five senses are all that is. That's ego. Mm-hmm. When you're trapped in the five senses and there's nothing beyond that, that's where you get confused, right? So when you believe that, you're magnetized for bad. Like, that's how it is. You're magnetized to gravitate towards bad situations and also comfort. So you want to be comfortable, and comfort is dangerous. Extremely.
And when you learn more about yourself, the way that you might have reacted back when you were all angry or whatever, you didn't know too much about yourself, it might be different when you start figuring yourself out, because you'll look back at it and be like, did I really need to do that? Did it really need to happen?
It's way different. We were just talking to Monk. Shout out to Monk.
Man.
We got to get Monk on too. Sean's going to be back soon, hopefully. Sean's out there grinding it out. But we were just talking to Monk, and I everything that provided the best lessons for me in my entire life, I wouldn't have chose if I would have chose something completely opposite from the path that I had to go down to earn what I had now. The thing that makes comments like that, they don't bounce off me. I still try to take them in where they're valuable, right? Yeah. And when people talk like that, shout out to Stacy who stuck up. You know what I mean? There's people, Big Will, the people that came in there, and it's fun to watch. A lot of that. This is just character study for me a lot of times, but it's you get to see who your people are in terms of mindset, and when we got to all stand together to try to take our rights back. And bestow rights on people that have never had them, what I mean? Because this is a we the people movement. I need to know who's there, you know what I mean? And that's based on mindset. I can't ask directly because everybody can sell it. And you know what I mean? I've been sold so many times on, yes, I'm here. I've sold myself on that. Before I grew, I thought I was, you know what I mean? And then I had, knocked in the head. Oh, I get it. Okay, yeah, that's that. And even this, while I'm going through it, I fucking know why. It makes sense. I know what I had to overcome. I know there's probably more, but I know that this was probably the last stronghold. And it sucks to really take it in stride when you're uncomfortable. Like the fact that I'm sitting, this is how you usually talk to another person, right? Yeah. Oh no, you don't even want their advice, but no, everything happens for a reason. Shut the fuck up. Nobody wants to hear that shit while they're going through shit. So I'm telling it to myself because I know it to be true, and I'm like, fuck, shut the fuck up. I can't shut the fuck up. That's why I talk to my cat.
And that's why, with me, it's like, I've learned so much, and that's why talking to, learning more about myself, and when I come back to it, really, at the end of the day, the problems that I was having, it wasn't with anybody else, it was just with me. I was just projecting it onto other people. And
it's what it always is, So what I've learned through this, and it wasn't an expected lesson, is that we're both mirrors and bridges. So we get to see ourselves in others, or we get to see things that we want to aspire to, things we don't want to be. Everything, but everything, for the most part, that we project out is something that needs to bounce back to us in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
I have way more life experience than my kids, but when I'm telling my daughter, you're procrastinating, I have to say, I do the same thing. I do the same thing. It's a habit I need to get out of too. I don't play high and mighty. I realize in the moment that I'm also talking to myself. And my kids were probably my greatest teachers because through them, I got to take in, it was just me and them, you know, when my daughter was 7 months and my son was 3. Mm-hmm. So they would a week with their mom, week with me. And that's how it's been ever since they were kids until just recently when these shitbags did what they did. But that was such a valuable. The time spent together was so valuable. I didn't think it was because I was struggling, and I made the choice to stay here instead of go back to Hollywood. And I said I'm going to be a father, not a paycheck father. And so I stayed. And that time, I chose the struggle. I chose the fucking struggle. Mm. Here, I chose the struggle. There's been money painted on pathways for me my whole life.
Yeah, but think about if you didn't choose that path. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't want to. Like I shuddered. I would not be here.
Like you've had so much growth, and so have we. Like me and my dad. Yeah. We've had a lot of growth through this experience too. So the fact that
we're fun to watch.
The fact that we're together and we're all experienced together, and we're in the moment. It's crazy.
It's so when and that's what Will called out on that post. I know exactly. I'm very I'm calculating in everything I put out. So things that misspellings thing. The way I capitalize words. The time I post it, like. It all depends. Like I have a lot going on up here, and
sometimes you just need to get that. You need to get it out.
Well, I'm experimenting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I'm at this place where I know that I wasn't expecting you guys to come along and be on par in terms of the growth.
Yeah.
So
I'm so grateful that we all were.
Well, you need more than one, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I just started feeling like, well, I got to do this on my own. It's I just got to try to communicate on a grand scale, what it is I'm trying to do, because people accuse me of talking too fast and just using too many words.
All people really got to do is pay attention. Like that's it. You got to pay attention, and you got to like really soak in what the person's saying.
Well, what you aim at is what you see.
Yeah.
So if you physiologically, we can only see 10% of our environment anyway. That's all you can see. So there's this experiment called the gorilla experiment, and it might have been called bouncing ball. But they brought some athletes from this college, and these scientists had said, I need you to bounce this ball back and forth between you, see how many times you can do it, count it. So that's what they did. They all put their focus on the ball, and they were bouncing this ball back and forth, and they wanted to get the maximum number possible. And but they stuck with their assignment. Are we? Yeah, son, yeah.
All right, we all.
Yeah. So the scientists would come back in the room, and they would get everybody's result. And at the end of the ask, they would say, "Well, around what time did the gorilla step into the circle?"
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, "What? The gorilla? When did the gorilla step in?" And no, but they're all like, what are you talking about? There's no gorilla. What do you mean? They ran the video back. Fucking man dressed in a gorilla suit jumps in and beats his chest and takes off. They were so focused on the activity at hand that they couldn't see this gorilla step into the circle. So think about how evilly genius indoctrination is, because it's hard when you learn there's no fucking Santa.
Mm-hmm.
And we're rational, supposed to be rational, logical, intelligent people. We're also when there's no Santa, like you just believe what your parents tell you. From the first trimester till 3, you're being programmed. You don't know how to take in that program. It's just yes. This is how the world is. Then you got to try to unlearn that shit, and you don't even know what you learned. So you got to go through shit to unravel it.
And you're going your whole life believing that Santa Claus is a real thing, and then your parents get older, and your parents finally tell you that it's not real.
No, we lied. Fuck off.
Yeah, like why'd you have to do it? Why couldn't you just tell me?
Well, I like it. So I did tell my kids. I didn't tell them like that though. What I told them flat out was, well, see, here's the thing. We have a choice we can believe in magic, we can believe in miracles, or we can not. And I said, I choose to believe. And my fear is that if we choose the glib route, if we choose not to believe, that maybe there is somebody that cares enough to do this good deed one time a year for people who've acted right. Maybe we won't get them. You know what I mean? And I just laid it out like that. I'm like, so I'm just saying, if I have the choice to believe in magic or not, I'm going to choose magic.
I'm going to choose.
Because nobody, and that's what with God too, whatever you want to call God. If you have the choice to believe that there's something beautiful beyond this, why the fuck would you not believe it?
Yeah.
Like what pain, what suffering is there in believing? Like, I don't need God to be a good person. Like I knew how to be a good person. I knew what integrity was. I knew how to keep my word. I knew how to honor people. I wasn't perfect, far from it, but I learned because I had these core tenets that needed nobody in the clouds judging me. In fact, I didn't like that shit. Fuck off. You know, I didn't know if there was or wasn't, but I said, I'll deal with them when I get there. Like when I was a kid, I was like, I'll fucking deal with them when I get there. I don't care. I don't fear them. I don't fear God or her, whatever.
No, and that's the thing is, to me, people shouldn't fear him. People should just, love him.
You can't love what you fear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because God, to me, is love. You know what I'm saying? So you loving on other people, that's a form of what God is. So everybody talking about, like, the whole, oh, God's going to get you or throw you in a lake of fire. Like, I don't understand, because if God's all loving and all powerful, how can he?
Well, it doesn't make any sense, and that's the thing. And here's why: because humans form God in their image, because that's all they can understand. It's hard to even fault them. You can fault the ruling classes for stealing information, and they took all the empowerment for the most part out of the Bible, hid it in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Most of the books of Isaiah, which centered predominantly on us being able to manifest miracles for ourselves, equal to or greater than that of Jesus, laws of attraction, Gnostic teachings, all gone. But, and then they took sin. Like, listen to it. It's crazy. Like, if you gotta take facts as facts. So when you learn things like this, it doesn't mean you have to disavow everything you love about that religion. You just have to take it at face value and say, well, like Jesus said, the person, I'm greater than that. I shouldn't be worshiping anyway. He cried on Palm Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, so I shouldn't even be doing that. And why the fuck do I have him on the thing he was murdered on? That's what we're paying tribute to. It doesn't seem right. Like there's something about that symbolism. What it does is it guilts you. And that was the entire play of the ruling classes, to keep people in these shame prisons so that we could never truly get into the functioning conscious brain and collaborate with one another to empower ourselves. They didn't want that.
And the reason why it's like, because going to church is like cool, but the thing that gets to me sometimes is when people when they look at you funny. You know what I'm saying? Like most of the time when I walk into a church, people look at me. That's the first thing they see is my canes, and they're like, they don't know how to react to that because they've never seen somebody like that before. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but when they look at you and they don't come up to you and ask you questions, that's what gets to me, because just come up to me and ask me. If you got a question, you just come up and ask me. Don't look at me and think that I don't see you, because I see you.
Well, that hypervigilance is common in everybody who's experienced trauma, which is everybody on this planet. And that's where people relate. So that's where I always go now. So I relate to that. I don't have your experience. And I could say that it's not, my hypervigilance, may have been more deep-seated than yours. I don't know, because there was there's a sense of entitlement that's ingrained in all Americans, but able-bodied people. If somebody's had it worse than you, rather than we're not taught compassion. We're not taught to reach back, and we're taught to think we're better than. You're lucky because now you can just, you know what I mean? But we're really not. We're not lucky because this was a huge block for me my entire life. I was stuck in that pop culture sickness, that disease. And it was hard my son is the only thing that pulled me out.
And to me, when you reach that level of success, like I was watching the Elvis documentary that you told me about.
That was a movie. The feature. The movie. Yeah, it was badass.
It was badass. Dude, he went back and learned from the people in the hood, bro, and freaking he gave.
Well, he didn't go back. He went. Like, he was the first. Like, they were like, what are you doing? You know, and he was like, well, I like it.
That's the coolest thing, bro. When you can be at that level like that and still, like, be around people like that, that's real compassion. That's real love. That's what we're supposed to do.
Well, the value you get as a human is so much greater than money.
Yeah.
The people, everyone I know, I know some billionaires. I know a lot of millionaires. I was in Hollywood. I've been around new money, old money. I can say there's maybe one. Elon seems pretty happy. Shout out to Elon.
Yeah, big
but he's doing all right. You know what I mean? People don't understand it. He's got Asperger's. He makes emotional decisions. Thank you for doing that. People will say he does, you know, they can't make sense of what he does. I've seen, I remember 15 years ago, and ever since then, I've been telling people, if you want this market, it's dead. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's going to die. Give it about 20 years. Your insurance, or not your insurance, your Social Security, your pension, everything's going to be gone, just like the junk bonds of the 30s. They're going to invoke a police state. They're going to do something to where they can accumulate all of our property. And we're going to think, oh, okay, that they're accumulating our property. It's fair because I can't pay for it. What we don't see is they stole our money. So they tax us, income tax. They tax us, state tax. They tax us fucking sales tax. They tax us when you buy a car. Then they make you buy fucking insurance. They make you buy this. But then here's the play that they did with this COVID shit. They fucking jacked inflation up and continue to jack it up while keeping the wage down, making the living, like they make it impossible to live. So there's going to come a point where nobody can afford shit, and we're just going to give them our property because we're not thinking about what they did. They stole our money. They made it impossible.
Right.
This EIDL that they put in, there's a reason they made it 30 years in cheap payments, because they know you won't be able to fucking afford it.
Right.
So now they can naturally come in and steal your shit, and now they've accumulated everything, and you're in a police state, bud. You know what I mean? You're on a bread line, and that's why I started this movement. I said, I'm not standing in a fucking bread line with my daughter and my son and looking them in the eyes and saying, I had an idea. I was too much of a pussy to do it, though, because I was too worried about my own self-preservation. Right. More so than you guys. People that say they die for their kids, sign the fucking ticker when the website gets back up. You don't have to die. Just sign that shit. I'll do the rest. You know what I mean? Or we'll do the rest, or what? The people that are willing to stand on the front line. Like even the two that wanted to go on there and talk shit about, they don't even know me. Like, it's been 10 years since I think seen either one of them in person. They don't know anything that's going on in my life other than what I post, and a lot of it is part of the book. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm testing different things, but even them, like, sign the ticker, motherfucker. This is for you too, and maybe it'll pull you out of your indoctrination. I have nothing but compassion for everybody, even people I don't want to have compassion for, even those fuckers that did that shit. I'm still fucking. I'm about to go in for the kill, but I didn't want to. I feel shitty having to smash these fucking guys.
Right. But sometimes you gotta do things that are uncomfortable.
All the time.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like, all the time. Like, if you want to grow.
And that's the thing too. It's like when you really start growing and you really start figuring yourself out, you're gonna have to go through things that are uncomfortable for you to go through. But that's what makes you stronger, is when you can go through those difficult situations and you can say, look, I made it through this. You know what I'm saying? The
Buddhists say, be grateful for your pain, and that was something I didn't want to hear either. When I was like, fuck you and your fuck you. It's because we've all gone through it. There's varying degrees of, and the quality of your life, the true quality of your life, whether or not you'll ever be able to experience real peace and tranquility on this planet, is going to be equal to the amount of resistance you're willing to walk into. It's just that way, because there's things that I could not have learned without the resistance. And there was a point where I just said, you know what, I'm just going to follow this voice that keeps telling me to do what I thought, ego at least, stupid shit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to whatever I'm just going to do it. Cause the way I'm doing it, it's not, I don't like it for my kids. So I'm just going to believe that even if something I do kills me, I'm going to have to believe that was the right thing. It's the right thing for the universe at that time. And I'm just going to move towards things with reckless abandon that are in opposition to what my ego would tell me to do. And I did it. And lo and behold, I'm getting everything to make this movement work.
And that's one of the most powerful things is that you talk to your kids and you tell them, we're going to have to go through this. We're going to have to go through this and do this maybe. And your kids were like, okay, we got you, Dad. Like, that's the most powerful thing.
And I didn't really.
That's crazy.
No, it still blows my mind. But it was the pinnacle moment as a father. I'm sure there'll be more.
Mm-hmm.
But that in that moment, because I'm my own worst critic. Like, that's why when people like that step in, that's nothing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I've already gone through that. Like, I know what I do, what I don't do, why I do it. I'm very so I'm always looking at things where fault's not healthy. Assigning fault does nothing.
No. Because if you blame somebody else, you're just really blaming yourself.
but even blaming myself doesn't work. I take responsibility, and then in taking responsibility, you have dominion over that behavior. Now you can change it. But if you're just a victim to your own circumstances, well, then you can't change anything. Then you're just fucked. Then you're a victim for the rest. So
yeah, and you don't want to be down on yourself, because if you're down on yourself, you can't learn.
And you can't be valuable to anybody else. You can be valuable in an egoic sense. You can have shit ton of money, and you can provide money to people, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but P. Diddy had a shit ton of money. What the fuck? Because I don't even know what's real there, but I'm just saying an example. Like, money really doesn't do much.
Because that's what I used to do. When I used to get angry and upset and mad, I used to be so mad at myself and talk down on myself. But now I realize, like, you shouldn't do that to yourself. You should figure out what your problem is or why you act like that and fix it.
Well, compassion is the fifth force of the universe. Yeah. If you ask any abbot, I've never been to Tibetan monastery. I'd like to. I'm going to get on one of Greg Braden's trips, and we're going to have to do that. You hike up to nobody goes there except for people that are directly going there and allowed in by the monastery. But so Greg Braden would ask these abbots that was like 150 years old. They that's their thing, and they just pray. That's their entire function, is to pray, and that's how they put light into the universe. He would ask him, there's another force of the universe. What is the fifth force of the universe? What binds us? And they, across the board, they would smile and they would say compassion in their language. And, the first time Greg heard it, he's like, well, but isn't that, it's an act or an emotion, or, you know what I mean? Or, and he says, how's it a force? And the abbot says, it's both, which makes sense. So yeah, humans can embody it. We can, and what's the literal definition of compassion is to sit in suffering with another. That means you see somebody suffering and you with a challenge or whatever, no matter how, and you do what you can to help, to assist as best you can, as best. In competition with nobody, just as best you can. You illuminate the space you occupy while you got the miracle of life to occupy it.
For real.
So if that's the truth, which I would say scientifically, everything I do, I look at spiritually, then I come back and I work it out scientifically. Mm-hmm. And then I don't do the hard math. I leave that to the experts, and I'll rely on Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, the Pauli exclusion principle, all these different things where people who dedicated their lives to these equations have proven them, and we've seen them manifest in our physical universe. It's true. Like the population is bigger, right? Mm-hmm. The violence that we see a lot of it. We don't see all of it, but we're far less violent than we've ever been in human history. There's a shift towards non-bullying and things like that. So we continue to grow. And if you're a 15-year-old and you're complaining about your life as a kid, and it could have been the worst one, you could have been molested, you could have starved for most of your life, you could have been beaten. somebody in that fucking hell knew to put diapers on you, knew to feed you. You at least got to this point to where, so there's an innate compassion that doesn't make those people good or that behavior excusable. But what it means is there's something in us that keeps wanting us to birth forward, no matter how much collectively we say this is shitty. You know what I mean? There's still something in us, and that's what we got to turn to, is that compassion. You know, and that's so when I got here with you and your dad, that was a natural thing for me that may not have been natural in the past, because I would have been like other people, like, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I got to be very careful because look at, you know.
And that's why I like you being here too, because not like we're learning so much from each other, because I'm learning a lot from you, but also you're learning a lot from me. So like being around somebody like me, because you know, you would have had different, I feel like you would have, if it was somebody different or
well, if it was somebody who couldn't speak like you, you know what I mean? Then it might have, I might have sent me in a different direction. I would have been like, oh, I would have still been compassionate, but it would have been a different kind of compassion.
But like that's the thing with me is like my people. Like if you sit down with us and you talk to us and you figure out like we're so much smarter than a lot of people would even think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you get shit that it took me 40 years and you know, I had to come about it my own way and the way it was given to me too. But the guy who was on this post talking shit, I didn't even read it all, but I know that I've heard that he was talking shit, and you know, I addressed it in as compassionate a way as I could, because I'm compassionate about it. But that's what when I did know him, he's one of those guys who considers him king shit smart guy. I probably didn't like that I was intelligent without fucking being cocky about it. He was real cocky, but little man syndrome type shit. And but you dwarf him in terms of growth. I'll say something to you, and then I'll see you talking to a friend, and in the middle of the behavior, correcting yourself. Oh yeah, I shouldn't have. That's a gift that most people will never achieve. Like not in this human existence right now as we experience. Maybe we evolve into it, you know, because if I can get there, I believe if you know what I mean, it's possible for everybody.
And my thing is too, it's like if people like literally sit down, because I learn a lot from my people too, like my buddy Eric. Shout out to Eric, man. He's a very smart individual, man.
Mr. Inspire.
He is very inspiring. So like when I'm around people like him and just around all my people and we talk, and because that's what I love doing, man. I love figuring out what my people are into, and when I go to like certain events and stuff and I meet new people, I always ask them like, what are you into? You know, you just gotta approach us to figure out things about us. You can't just assume, because then you don't know.
No, and you don't know. Like that's that. The more I get to learn, I get that solidified in my brain, is that I don't know, and that was one of the first profound things I learned in philosophy, was when Socrates said, "All that I know is that I don't know."
Yeah, and it's honestly a blessing that you know things, and it's a blessing that I don't know things, and it's a blessing that you don't know things, and it's a blessing that I do know things, because then we're learning off each other. You know what I'm saying? It's like
this right here, like to be able to do this in long form, you know, and let people watch conversations unravel with people they might never encounter. So you know, watch a guy like Joe Rogan. You don't have to respect him. I respect what he's done. You know what I mean? I do, and that's a person who stuck to his guns. No, I'm just doing this for me.
He's very intelligent, man. Like,
but he doesn't think he is. Yeah, I think he knows now, but he really compared himself to a gorilla, and that's why he's so good at listening, because he doesn't want to. He wants to know, so he doesn't appear stupid.
Exactly.
And through that, he became a genius listener. I consider him a genius listener, whether you like him or not. There's a reason he's in the place that he is. It's because he did something that humanity deeply need. You could fucking clown him out. It's 3-4 hours. Who does what? And when people do that shit, it's like, don't watch it. Don't.
Yeah,
because nobody's begging you to watch it.
Because if focused on the time of the video and not focused on what he's saying, it's probably something you shouldn't be listening to anyway.
It's not. Yeah, it's not for you. If you want sound bites, you can get that on fucking. All the traditional channels are still doing it. So, I forgot what that dude called this shit today. Shotgun podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what that means, but
I don't either. But
am I forced to marry me? I don't know what it is. It's some stupid shit. And that's where you know somebody's just flying off. Because they'll say things, they'll write them, and they stay there. Like, I can change everything I write. Like, so I think about the things I write before I put them out there. Mm-hmm. I don't ever have to say something to somebody so bad that I have to get it out like right then. Yeah. Nothing has to come out right then. I don't care, because what's your opinion of me? It's one of the 4 agreements. It's not my business.
And think about if you would have thought quick on the situation, and then it's not exactly what you wanted to say, and then you had to delete it.
A lot of times that hurts people. Like, if I'm being reactionary, that's me resorting to autopilot, not the conscious mind. I'm not in neocortex. I'm back here trying to figure out whether I'm going into fight or flight, and I'm defending myself.
Yeah.
That's all I'm doing. So when they read that, they felt this visceral need to defend themselves.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
The reason why they felt like they had to defend themselves was because with what you said to them hit them in some type of way, right, to where they felt like they had to respond.
Right. So that's them, and they don't like how that felt. So So here's 1 or 2 things have to happen when something like that happens. When your ego gets challenged like that, you either have to go inside and you got to figure out why. That's what I do. That's it's autopilot. Yeah, that's my autopilot now. Is why? Why did I do that? What did I do to invite that? First, I check with me, because I'm going to be harshest on me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll look at the entire situation, but I have to step out of the entire situation and look objectively. If I'm subjective about the lesson, I can't learn the lesson, because then I've burdened it with my own life experience, indoctrination, opinions, bad habits. So I have to step outside of myself, and I have to view the situation from sometimes I can't do that in the moment, so I take that breath and I get out. Then I have to then I'll come back. But it's when somebody can't fucking help, but that they're not in their conscious mind. So I don't take offense. I'm like, okay, I get it. So let me try to
make it in a way where you can understand.
It was a great example. It was a perfect example of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Why we're separate. Like, we're separate because you got to do 1 or 2 things. You got to go inside and fix it, which is the proper thing to do, because then you have dominion. Or you say that wherever the source is crazy, the source is a conspiracy, the source is evil, the source, you label it, you judge it, and then you cast it away. That way you can feel like you did work. Like, that's petty work. That's like putting out small fires.
And judging somebody doesn't do anything for you really, except make you look like it did.
Well, I mean, you're judging you. Yeah. It's what you're doing. Like, so even if, the worst of the worst, the pedophiles, it's so, as a spiritual person, it's hard to, like, why does it, there's some things I'll never be able to answer, but I
asked that too. I'm like, why does that kind of stuff happen? But it's not for me to understand, I guess.
Well, and here's where I find compassion for them. Doesn't mean they're not to be held accountable, because they are.
Yeah,
not in the way that we hold people accountable. You don't fucking put people, like, so if somebody had to sit in a cell for the rest of their lives, and this was truly a Department of Corrections, you would make that give them a choice. You want to go play spades? You want to stab each other? You can do that, but over here you can meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just try to get right with whatever God is, whatever spirit is, whatever that is for you. Here's that space too. So, So now people that can or are willing or want to be reformed, they reform themselves in a space of compassion rather than animalistic. And now they're putting light onto the universe. You know what I mean? That energy signature is important. So we don't have that. What we have is a place where they want people to be animals, and they want them to come back. I didn't know prisons. Any new prison, if you're going to get the contract, you have to guarantee a certain level of occupancy. That was like a year ago, maybe I found that. I was like, what the fuck is that?
I didn't know that until just now.
That is, it's insane what we've allowed them to steal from us. And you can't blame anybody for still being there, because well, Santa's real to some people still. You know what I mean? Like, even though the contradictions are rampant, we're always fighting. It continues to get worse, not better, under their rule. But somehow, it is a lot of the ego just wanting to keep us comfortable, not maliciously, but it doesn't want us to suffer. So it's defending us in its own.
Unless you're fighting for something that you believe in, or you're fighting for like your family or whatever. Like, there's really no reason to be fighting with people who just try to understand. You know what I'm saying?
It's easier said. You know,
it's a lot easier.
I've done plenty of fighting for stupid ass shit. And
me too.
I mean, but case in point, when, I spent a long time writing that, and I knew that there was going to be certain people that would get offended. I figured most of those people wouldn't say it because they would be religious. So a lot of religious people, unless there's a group dynamic, they typically don't say anything. And if you're a confident religious person that really isn't indoctrinated to that extent, you don't give a fuck. People, people live in that one Stacy girl. I showed you.
Yeah,
it's all her thing, her greatest thing, God. And you know what I mean. So she easily could have been one of those people that took major offense, and it could have, you know what I mean. But she came in and she's like, look, you don't have to. She's very intelligent, and I appreciated that because that's what what I hope to draw out of those. I like to, but you hope to draw people out of there that are intelligent and that have. I love when people have opposing viewpoints, but we can relate in that. No, we should all try to work together to make this thing better.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing, dude. It's like you can't just jump down someone's throat. You got to understand where they're coming from. You know what I'm saying? Like, well,
you just compound shit when you might not like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, when you call him names, what do you think? Do you think you're doing good? You're not. Number one, you're validating his whatever mental illness he has that has him confused. So you're not looking at him sympathetically, and you got to do that with everybody. We're all kind of sick kids that never got to fully grow up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not evolved yet that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what you're doing is compounding shit. So it's basic math, basic physics, shit. And this is just basic shit talk, but shit plus shit equals more shit. The pile of shit gets bigger. It doesn't get smaller because you put what you consider better shit on top of it. You know what I mean? It just stays shitty.
I feel like as a world, as a country, as a people, we should show love and compassion to one another because, coming with all this negativity is like, it's not even worth it, really.
Well, you're fucking you're doing to others. Like the golden rule makes so much sense because anytime I've ever, and I'm glad I can see that in myself because I can see it in myself, and further because I know how the brain works now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a ton of compassion.
Me too.
A ton of it, and I'm not perfect with it. And there were a couple of jabs that I threw out today. They weren't harsh, but they were. I just wanted the point.
Well, you can't let people step on it. You can't let people.
They didn't step, but they stepped on them. Like so, when you get to a level of consciousness where that is nonsensical.
Yeah.
But because it was in that platform, I wouldn't have even responded otherwise. I would,
right? Yeah,
that sucks for them. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't even merit a response, but because it was in that post and it was so perfectly displayed what it was that, in that same post, like that. So it was long, like, and people will tell me, oh, that's too much. What are you writing a book? That's part of the problem with this fucking planet, man. There was a time in our history where we couldn't access information. And now we can access it at warp speed. And we're fucking tired. We're bitching about how long. Don't read it, number one. But number two, when I put them out there, I see how confused people get when they just take a text in or a meme. And it might have nothing to do with anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to provide context. And I'm going to continue to provide context. I don't care how long it is. Don't fucking read it. But the one who does is going to be like, oh, I understand his perspective. I might not agree.
And that's the thing, too. That's like part of your therapy almost, to get your thoughts out there. It's like me with music. It's like that's my therapy, like to get my thoughts out there and to process things. And because like before, it was hard for me to process things because I was raised on like silence is gold, and you don't talk to nobody. You don't talk to nobody about your problems. And when I found the wrestling team, I became more of like a man because it taught me how to defend myself and how to
Wear a singlet.
Yeah. For real, it did though. It taught me like, and doing the music taught me like you can be okay with who you are, man. It was still hard at some point, but one night I was talking to my dad. He said we were driving in the car, and he said, "Son, you can talk about anything that we've been through, and you'll be okay." And was it still hard at the moment? Yeah, but when I made that War Ready song, I really understood that I can do that and I can be okay.
And you have to.
Yeah, because if you're not, how are people supposed to connect with you? How are you supposed to build that connection with people? Because people could be going through the same thing, or they could be feeling the same emotion about something, and the song you made could have helped them out.
And like Maya Angelou, I love it. One of the worst things that a human can have happen is that you die with a story trapped in you.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. It's traumatic. It's trauma on top of trauma, because this whole realm of phenomena is traumatic, just in its nature. But if you get a story here, which we're all going to leave with, there's only going to be one us.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one power we have, is that no matter what it is we feel is challenging or whatever, there's only one us. So we better fucking be that to the best of our ability, because if we're not that, then we're nothing. Then I understand nihilism. That makes sense.
Yeah. And like, dude, for me, it was like, dude, and I got to meet, because I thought I was the only one that was handicapped or had a challenge or whatever you want to call it, that made music like that. And then I went to this place called the D-Man Foundation, and I saw all these other people that had challenges that were making music. And it was the coolest thing. That's where I met my buddy Eric. That's where I met my boy Tony, rest in peace, my boy JoJo. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's where I met my boy Dwan. Like, I got to meet all these great people off of what I love to do.
Well, for me, like, so I think I'm the only one from the hood that went on to, I'm reading Greg Braden, Michio Kaku, Stephen Hawking. Like, I'm blending all these. They're very diverse, and they have their own belief systems. But to me, it's all making sense as one thing. I'm like, oh, there's no separation between anything. It's all relative. So I'm taking in all this information from all these different people, and for a while it was just me. There was nobody. So I started feeling like I remember putting a post out on this thing, Plenty of Fish, and I hadn't dated. I focused on my kids for like, a year and a half, 2 years, with no real intent on having anything serious. And then I was like, I put my thing out on one of those dating sites, all of them, I think, whatever they were at the time. Mm-hmm. And one of them was Plenty of Fish. But I went on there and I said, I'm sick of the fucking bar chicks. You know what I mean? Like, because I've never had. It's always been easy to find companionship. That can be a detriment too. People think it's no, because it becomes, a lot of things become superficial, and the way that you're conditioned to act in this society, that's not how I want my son to be towards. You know what I mean? It's not how. So I had to change myself, because I'm like, that fucking no. But I said on Plenty of Fish, I was just so sick of. I was so conditioned for the superficial, and it just got old. And I'm like, man, I just want to meet somebody that I can talk to. And this is me. I can talk to about quantum physics. I can talk to about the origin of whether or not God's real. I said, I'm fucking sick of the bar shit. Like, I just don't want to do it anymore. And this woman shows up, and we wound up becoming friends. And she's the one who gave me the book on. She's like, the way you're talking, because I was limited on what I knew so far and where I was going. But she's like, you got to listen to Greg Braden, Lost Mode of Prayer. You're gonna. And I could, once I heard it, I was like, oh my God. So I went on that journey with all his. I read all his stuff, and then I'm out in L.A. on this impromptu weed run. It was the last one, the one I got pulled over on. I knew I was going to get caught. I broke every rule. A friend needed somebody to run. His guy got stuck down in Costa Rica, so I was like, yeah, I'll fucking do it. I think deep down I wanted to get caught, because I always knew I'd get myself one get out of jail free. It was weed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but there was a lot of it. You know what I mean? It was about $250,000 worth. It wasn't nothing major, but that's still significant. So I got pulled over. But while I'm sitting in this hotel in Marin County, waiting for, something got delayed. I'm just sitting there. I'm telling everybody I can about this lost mode of prayer and the things that I'm reading now, because I don't give a fuck. Because I don't mind I don't mind conflict. Like, that's one thing that saved me is I'll walk it. I'll say what the fuck I want. Do something. You know what I mean? So I'll stand in unlikely groups and I'll say things that might make them want to, and I'll do something. But so I'm in there talking about spiritual shit. Everyone's freaking out about, there's going to be, and this one guy says,